Hello, I'm Mercedes Stevenson, and this is the West Block, politics, perspectives, and players. Last year, people around the world were displaced because of climate change. The International Committee of the Red Cross is the oldest international humanitarian organization in the world. And in recent years, it's faced many new challenges with changing battlefields and political concerns in countries like China and Venezuela. I sat down with the president of the ICRC last year to talk about those challenges. Here's that conversation. We're joined now by Mr. Peter Maurer, the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the biggest challenges that what is probably the world's best known and most respected humanitarian organization is facing?
It is accessing and preserving a neutral and impartial space by the consensus of belligerents. What has changed, though, is that those belligerents and the battlefields to which we ask for access in order to bring assistance to civilian populations, to bring assistance to those people who live, what changes is the number of actors with whom we are confronted. States and non-state armed groups now populating battlefields and making access negotiations more complex. What changes is the nature of violence in many places in which we are, where political, military confrontation is compounded by criminal inter-community violations of law and violence, which is a big challenge.
How do you operate in an environment where things have changed from everybody stopping when the Red Cross came through to allow them access because they were impartial, because they were neutral, they were there to do humanitarian work, to now in some cases your workers being deliberately targeted?
Well, first, I'm not 100% sure whether the golden age of non-attack on humanitarians has ever existed. What has changed indeed is that while for a long time we could presuppose acceptance of the Red Cross as a given, today this is very much something which has to be reassured with the actors on the ground, renegotiated, and I think that's a shift and a change which has preoccupied us over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years in particular.
When you look around the globe today, where are the geographic locations that concern you the most in terms of humanitarian crisis?
Well, definitely the Middle East. In the last 7, 8 years, the Middle East has become from a relatively marginal operation in the portfolio of ICRC to being at least 1/3 of everything we do worldwide. And the second region which consistently has been on the top of our concern is Africa. It's interesting to note that one of the largest regional growth in our budget this year, 2019, has been Latin America, which is not a region which you would traditionally refer to when you hear ICRC and war and conflict, but where disruptions, societal disruption, internal tensions, conflict and violence have spread over the continent and have unfolded in multiple displacements in the humanitarian impact on the Central American crisis, the migration crisis, the Venezuelan crisis, of course, with millions of people displaced. And if you look east, further east, I have been surprised to see a major top 10 humanitarian operation in Ukraine, in the middle of Europe.
Do you think that it's important for your organization to have access to those re-education camps to see what's going on?
Well, it is important if the government would see an interest in the presence of ICRC in this work, but as long as there is no call, no interest from governments, ICRC is not in a position to bully its way into having acceptance acceptability or an interest.
The two Canadians who are in prison in China, Michael Spavor, Michael Kovrig, they've been detained for almost a year. Are you able to visit people in prisons in China, or is that whole country just off limits for your organization because they haven't consented?
We are not able to visit detainees in Chinese detention facilities.
Wow, so those Canadians would not have the benefit of the International Committee of the Red Cross visiting them to check on their well-being?
Unless there is an agreement and a call from the Chinese government to ask for the presence of ICRC, there is no possibility for my organization to be active on individual cases. That's basically what we are doing, even if within the framework of a all detainee approach, we always try to focus on those who are particularly vulnerable.
Peter, thank you for your work and for your organization's work and for your time today.
Thanks for your interest.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching. For the West Block, I'm Mercedes Stephenson.